The power of story. Join me in this interview as I discuss with a patient her perspective in the brilliance of what happens when the teacher becomes the student and the student is the teacher. Enjoy.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Dr. Wade. This show was created for and inspired by the thousands of patients I've served, so it's time for me to speak up and speak out on their behalf. With a wide range of experts, we bring you weekly insights, diving deep into topics of controversy to bust through the sugar coating that keeps you and your family stuck in the mainstream.
An aunt to many, I'm sure, and literally just a woman full of wisdom here. In this time of need, when everyone is fearing the worst and in crises and in panic mode, Bonnie's going to have some words of wisdom that she has lived by and is proof in the pudding. So thanks so much for being here today with us, Bonnie.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it.
So yesterday I had a little conversation with you, and you literally started going off on this beautiful, this clarity in a rant. And it wasn't a negative rant. And that's why I say it was clarity. So Can you share with me a little bit of your history? First of all, what are people going through right now? What do you see on social media? What's the driving fear here that you're aware of?
Everybody's afraid to catch it, and everybody thinks they're going to die from it. It's not true.
Okay. So
that's the worst ultimate thing. People are afraid of dying or getting terribly sick. And if you really look at the facts and how many people are actually getting extremely sick or are dying from it, which is a tragedy, but they all have underlying health issues. You don't really know the circumstances of their eating and their health, their state of health. So I just have always lived a balanced lifestyle. We have raised 7 kids. We have 11 grandkids. With all of the spouses, there's now 27 people in my immediate family to love and care for. And I can either choose to be worried about it constantly, like a lot of grandmas are, or I can choose to focus on the positive things and what everyone is doing right. And to me, it kind of sounds like they used to say, well, try not to think about a pink elephant. Well, then you're going to constantly be thinking about a pink elephant. And it's everywhere on the news, on Facebook, on TV. I really limit a lot of that, of what I take in. I'm aware of what's going on in the world, but I don't dwell on it. My background with chiropractic and with being in a healthy lifestyle started when I was 3 years old. My foot turned in and I was having difficulty walking, and my parents took me to the medical doctor, and they were going to break my leg and put it in a cast. And they said, well, let's try chiropractic. And one adjustment to my hip straightened out my leg. Well, I had to have orthopedic shoes and different things like that as a child, but being the oldest of 7, my mom's MO was, you're crabby, you need to get an adjustment. And so we, of course, had fallen off our bike, fallen off the swing, climbed a tree and fell out of that or whatever we did. But I grew up really probably in my entire life of 63 years. I was thinking about it. I know I had probably less than 7 or 8 prescriptions my entire life, because every single time there was something going around. And this virus that's out and available now, I grew up going to kindergarten with a girl who had polio. So there's always been things. There's chicken pox, measles, mumps, different things. And of course, you didn't have the media then broadcasting how many people died from this or how many people died from that. You just accepted what was going on around you with germs, and you just took precautions, and I grew up with grass-fed beef, and my dad did all the gardening, and we rarely ate anything from a box, like box cake mixes, box cereals, things like that. It was a big family. We didn't have a lot of money, so we did eat some, but it wasn't the sugary varieties, so we tried to limit that. So now I've got even more information raising my children, which the youngest are now going to be 27. But now I'm also watching my grandchildren being raised. So I've got like 3 generations of experience of, number one, you don't have to panic. There's always been germs. There will always be germs. There's always been sicknesses and diseases. There will always be. So you can either live in fear, which actually taxes your immune system because it gets you in fight or flight, or you can focus on it. I guess what I'm saying is I've been doing more yoga these days, thanks to you and Dr. Heather encouraging me to do that. And it's helped me because there's that practice of mindfulness. What is your mind full of? What are you thinking about? So when you are doing the right thing, be all present. I am disinfecting the bathroom right now. I am wiping down all the door handles. I am drinking plenty of good water. I have a lot of habits. I crack the windows in the bedrooms and in the kitchen every single day, no matter how cold it is outside, to get fresh air flowing through. The old adage I learned from my old chiropractor, we called him Old Doc Drock, and he went to Palmer. His son is a chiropractor, so the father and son were my chiropractors pretty much until I came to Madison. But he would say, when you cut it open, the juice should run out. So how many things are you eating where when you cut them open, the juice runs out? If something is sitting on a shelf long term and it's filled with preservatives so that it tastes the same today as it did a year and a half ago when it was made, it's probably not giving you a lot of nutrition. You know what I mean? So you're looking for things that are going to fuel you,
So, Bonnie, you touched on something that was really interesting that I think is worth a little conversation piece. Number one, I know that the listeners can hear in your voice and see in your face because there's this congruency about what you're saying and your body language, and that is vibrating and resonating truth. And what's amazing is there's people watching this that can't accept that level of truth and or your confidence, or their belief set is that because you're so confident or you're not taking this seriously that you're a haphazard to society because you're not fearing this enough because I fear it and therefore you are out of line. Now, my point for mentioning this little nuance is your level of confidence as you wipe the doors down, as you take normal precaution. What's the vibration or what is your mindset when you say mindful? Is that enough for your mentality? It sounds like it is. It looks like it is because you're confident that that's part of the solution, but it's not all the solution. So wherein lies that truth for you? You know what I mean? Where people have a hard time with this going, oh my gosh, if I wipe the doors and I look at sterility, now I still walk around in fear all day. That is an energy of attraction to the sickness. And I don't mean just the law of attraction. I mean, you're attracting what you fear most. And so tell me about where you sit with that and how that influences your day and your moment, so to speak.
Well, I guess I can tell you some of the stories from my experience. Like I've had several children who have had the febrile seizures in front of me. I've been through the H1N1 scare of the swine flu and things like that. The rise of the pertussis, the whooping cough. I've seen my kids have measles, have chickenpox, have mumps. Back in the day, of course, you would look backwards and think, well, this was maybe really naive. But the idea was you'd have chickenpox parties that if your kids' friends didn't have them, you invite them over to play with your kids who've got them. So, but that was before all of the immunizations and all that kind of stuff that were available. But I guess what I'm saying is I do take it very seriously. I've been up in the middle of the night with crying babies, with fevers, vomiting, throwing up, I wonder if they have this latest sickness or disease. But whether they have it or not, the treatment or the stand, I would say, is exactly the same every time. You have to take a stand and do everything you know to do. So I'm not making light of it or treating it as a trite thing like, yeah, I should exercise and then, oh yeah, this bad virus is going around and oh, we should eat better. It's what I do is everything I do is on purpose. It has meaning. It has a grounding in science, articles I've read, information I've taken in, things I've lived through. Like, for instance, old Doc Drock would say, oh, your kids have a fever. Put cold washcloths on their heads, give them plenty of fluids, and do everything you can to get them to poop, because the germs are in the poop. Once that happens, time after time after time, the fever broke and they got better. I didn't send them out in public. I kept them home. I was an attentive mother. I'm an attentive grandmother. If they're sick, they're on my couch with a cold washcloth, a box of Kleenex, a big drink of water. I don't give them sugary things to drink when they're sick. I don't let them play lots of stimulating video games. I give their bodies what they actually need, which is all out rest. A lot of people go to say, okay, you can go play your video games for 6 hours and, the babysitter will check on you. Well, no, I'm right there. I'm reading them stories. We're out on the front porch getting fresh air. We're walking around the block when they start feeling better, but I don't put them out in public. You know what I'm saying? And so, if I do have, go ahead.
The question there is, I love it. First of all, your answer is fantastic. And just your motherly and mother goose wisdom in this. And I say that extremely respectfully, because you cannot account and people can't overlook that you are living this truth, and the truth is based on science. It's based on experience. Moreover, clinical experience as a parent, as a grandparent, as a daughter, as a sister, you name it, and as an influencer. And so why I'm asking this piece is, as you go through this, when you hold the kids back, let's just say it's a grandchild today, or it's your own kids back then, and you kept them home, I'm going to ask you this poignant question. Was it because you were afraid of the rest of the population, or was it because you knew that rest was an important, essential part, and consideration and respect for others was there? But was it fear or was it strength?
It was totally strength, because I wanted the best for my children. I wanted them to be in a healing environment, to give their immune system the best shot possible. And then I also was considerate of other people. I didn't want them to get sick either. And just like, for instance, right now, we live here in Oregon, and we have 11 grandkids in this area. And I know for a fact that once school starts in the fall, those kids are going to be collecting with other kids who have germs on their hand and colds and sneezes and flus and everything. I invite them over here. They have to wash their hands before they eat their snack. After they leave, I wipe down the light switches, the door handles, the hand railings. I change out the hand towel in the bathroom. I've got 8 boys. I clean the toilet well when they all come through.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm cleaning the toilet handle where they flush. I'm very attentive and very proactive, because I don't treat it lightly, but yet I feel empowered, I guess you might say, to do my part. And I mean, I grew up in Marshfield, which is a very much a medical community. And so I can't tell you how many times as a young mom, I would take my kids in because they had a rash, or they had an earache or whatever. And the doctor would say, "Why did you bring them in? There's nothing wrong with them." And then the next time I go, "Okay, I'll wait a little bit, then I'll bring them in." "Why didn't you bring them in sooner? They've already got this or that." I was like, how am I supposed to know? So out of a lot of hit and miss and things that I found myself in situations where I didn't have the right knowledge, I just kept collecting knowledge, collecting experience, collecting information. And then every time those seasons hit, or when I'm with my family, I'm putting all that into practice all the time.
And I would account for that. I mean, what's a real pleasure, and I've shared this with you on many occasions, but I have a great deal of respect for you as a role model for your family, and how well, and I shared with you, you remind me a lot of my mom in terms of the stance she took and the faith she had, not just faith blind, faith educatedly, and faith in the process, and faith in human beings. And what's not being portrayed today is empowerment. And you are an example, which is why I thought it was crucial to give listeners a chance to hear somebody sensible. I mean, freaking common sense. Wisdom of the ages says, this isn't our first battle. This is not our first virus. This is ridiculous how, and that's not disrespect. It's literally calling a spade. I'm coming from a neutral ground, not a pro or anti, as much as stay grounded people. And Bonnie is an example of being grounded. She's grounded in principle, spiritually, physiologically. She has science on her side, not against, and she's doing it. And if she can do it, because she's a fantastic student, I mean, we give homework and Bonnie does it. And she comes back, she has it on paper and she goes, I did the homework. And I shake my head going, you are so fun to work with. This is awesome. And then what happens? How do you respond? 9 out of 10 times, Bonnie.
Yeah. I just get so much out of what you tell me when I do it. People are so full of knowledge, but they don't always do it. And so sometimes you have to just refocus a little bit instead of trying to do taking in 10 different things, focus on one and then do that, and I just want to say too, like I was thinking about the immune system and all the things I've learned from you and Dr. Heather, but also from my old Doc Drock and his son and all of the wonderful chiropractors that I've seen my whole life. And that as I came up with this idea, we have faith in so many things, so many ways. We cross a bridge, we have faith in engineering. We go up a high rise, we have faith in architecture and science and math. And so I've developed this faith and combined with, I guess you could say, it's faith based on knowledge of how the human body works. And when I get adjusted, I feel like a green light's turned on in my body. And I can literally feel from top to bottom, like I always say, I'm back firing on all cylinders again, but I can tell when I have a subluxation of some kind in my body, it's like there's a red light. It's like something's not working right. And I've not just known that principle, but I've seen it with my own eyes. I've taken my children in with headaches or bad coughs, severe colds, whatever the issues, earaches, get that one right thing adjusted in their neck or their shoulders or wherever it is, and they pop right out. I've actually taken kids to old Doc Drock with their diaper on. He's adjusted them because they couldn't poop, and they pooped on the table in their diaper. The guy goes, oh, this'll fix it. Instant results. Yeah. So I mean, it's just been so many stories over. I'm 63 years old and I've had 60 years of chiropractic. So, but again, I don't just take your word for it. I go home, I think about it, I do a little research, I put it into practice, and I go, yep, that works. And that's the thing, is I just want to encourage people to get more information, to be more open-minded. Because really, it's not faith in chiropractic versus faith in medicine. It's faith in the human body and how it's created.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And whether you have to go to the clinic, if you've got strep throat and you've got a really stressful life and job, go get antibiotic, go get it filled, but then follow the directions and do that right. And while you're doing that, get an adjustment, take lots of fluids, eat right, get some rest. Don't keep going full bore thinking, oh, this is just a Band-Aid. Now I can run my life into the ground even further and not take care of myself.
Ouch. Oh, that is so painful to hear that knowledge dropping bombs, Bonnie. That was beautiful. I mean, look what happens. Dr. Heather said something last night, and I heard it a different way because the way she said it. She goes, all this technology with phones. She recalls, she goes, when we started getting cell phones, she goes, what are we going to do with this thing? And in a funny way, she was saying, it's not the devil, but the reality is it sucks us in, and everything is through this phone now, right? I mean, everything. Right. And so she goes, what it's done now is given us permission to nonstop. Not only do we get nonstop marketing because we're not in front of the TV for certain hours, we are on our phones constantly, which means now it's permission for them to market to us 24/7. Even when we roll over at night and check our phone, we're getting marketed to.
Sure.
And the way she said this was really, really shockingly poignant. She goes, it gives us now permission to work constantly. And I'm like, I never even looked at it or heard it in that form, but it's just like, I have permission to keep going all the time and never stop. It's like, that is our demise from a health perspective.
Right. Right. And it's not only just permission, but it's that expectation. well, I've got to keep up with what's going on, and I think that's one of the things when I look back into me taking care of my family, I had the time and I took the time to be there with them when they were sick. And when sickness would come, especially in a big family, you could be ready to go out for a picnic. You could be ready to go to church, and then two of them start throwing up and tossing their cookies. And you got to clean that up and stay home and readjust what you're going to do. But having such a busy, packed lifestyle leaves no time for anything unexpected.
Beautiful.
And, so it takes time. I take time and plan out what I'm going to eat. I take time. Where am I going to shop for the best things that I can afford that are good for me? I take time and
Is it convenient?
It's not convenient, but I don't look at it as inconvenient. I look at it as part of my life, something that's going to give me something back. It's like an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so even like when I have overnight guests, I have clean bedding. When they leave, I wash everything. I air out the room. I wash the rugs. I wash the hand towels. I'm cleaning, always making the best atmosphere for people to thrive and be their best, So those are just some of the things I do.
You got it. She's not showing that she's wearing her cape right now, but she does have a cape. Bonnie has a cape.
I do wear a Life is Good t-shirts almost every day just because I love what it says.
Oh, man, I just love and appreciate you guys and how hard you've worked and the work ethic you and your husband share and the family that you've created. And you're one of 7. I'm one of 7. So I'm on the lower end of the 7, number 6, and you're on the top end, the first top dog, number 1, which had a lot of responsibility on her.
Yep.
And so I just, again, greatly appreciate your insight in this and how you are role modeling for others. And that's why I wanted you to share your story, because now is when people need that the most, Bonnie.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So is there any last thoughts you have for those who are caught up in this mess, rat race, distraction technique by the media and this whole the sky is falling mindset?
Well, when I've had some difficulties, you and Dr. Heather have had me make some lists, and it helped me refocus the things that I could do about my situation. And I think maybe limiting how much you're on media to get that input, switch it and put on some good music or something instead. And then go and make a list of 5 things you can do that make you feel empowered in this day and age. And don't just stop doing those 5 things once this scare is past. Incorporate that in your lifestyle so that you always feel grounded and you always feel empowered and you always feel like, yeah, I can pretty much handle anything. There's always a way. Beautiful. Love it. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So hopefully you all benefit and listen and share this wisdom and knowledge that doesn't have to come from a medical doctor or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a neurologist or the CDC to show you that the reality is in the human being and the reality is in your potential. So thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Wish you a great day and all your influence. Awesome.
All right.
All right, everybody, have a good day. Watch for more tips and tricks on how to combat this mess we're in and how to get a sense of groundedness. Ciao.
Sounds good.
Thank you much for listening to this week's episode. I look forward to any feedback and or questions you might have. Direct them to our Facebook page, Frankly Speaking, Dr. Wade at Facebook. Okay, my fellow health warriors, it's time to head over to iTunes, franklyspeakingdrwade.com. There, you can rate, review, and subscribe, as well as share so more of our brothers and sisters can grow to realize their voice. Speaking up means you matter. So, get on it. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views expressed are not medical advice and are not meant to replace the medical advice of your doctor. This podcast, including Dr. Wade Annenson and his guests, disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects you may experience from the specific use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse and accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about the guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for such services or products. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.